Prime Minister says an overview was received from the organizers of the St. Martin Heineken Regatta. 3 men arrested in connection with several robberies. But first up, Minister of Finance gives presentation on the annual account of 2015. Those are the headlines for Friday, March 6, 2020. This is SXM Daily News. I'm Valerie Van Putten. Thank you for joining me. Now for the details. The Central Committee meeting of Parliament that was convened on March 4, 2020, dealt with the National Ordinance establishing annual accounts for St. Martin for the financial year 2015. Minister of Finance, Mr. Ardwell Irion, who made his presentation, said that his ministry fully understands their obligation to report in a timely fashion to Parliament and can assure the public the minister is working hard on eliminating the existing administrative backlog.
The annual report, the financial statements, St. Martin 2015. On June 11, 2019, the Council of Ministers approved the draft 2015 financial statement. Approval was also given to submit the draft to the Governor, who would then send it on to Parliament. The Ministry fully understands its obligations to report in a timely fashion to Parliament. I can assure you that this Minister is working hard on eliminating the existing legislative backlog completely regarding the country's financial statement during the book year 2020. With external assistance, we are now eliminating the backlog of the annual accounts. As we speak, the 2017 and 2018 annual accounts are being drafted and will be submitted to the Council of Advice. The target is to be synced with the law by September 2020, with the annual reports of the 2019 then to be submitted. The qualified auditor's report of the SOAB and a report of the General Audit Chamber related to the 2015 financial statements mentioned several areas of major concern that have an impact on our financial management. Where feasible, we have taken the comments of SOAB and the General Audit Chamber into account when drafting the financial statements 2015. This also leads to a visible improvement of the presentation of the future financial statements. However, unless we address the structural issues related to our financial management, we ultimately will not be able to attain sound public financial management. Last month, key players of our ministry discussed the approach of our financial management improvements with specialists from World Bank and CARTAC. Our action plan is now being fine-tuned to address all the steps to enable us to reach a sound financial management level. Preparations for financing our action plan, improving financial management, were made in the past months but stalled after postponement of our capital loan 2019 by the Netherlands. The project can be only implemented in its totality after financing is arranged. The goal is to obtain an unqualified auditor's opinion on our financial statements as per 2021. But this target is already under pressure given the lack of financing. I sincerely trust Parliament will support us on the road toward full financial recovery and sustainability. The approval of these financial statements is just one step in that direction. As we look at the slide, the actual figures of 2015 show a loss of 18.4 million guilders compared to a balanced budget for 2015. This is due to 5.1 million guilders higher income and 23.5 million higher expenses than budgeted. Continuing in the third column, higher expenses mainly related to an impairment of more than 40 million guilders on the valuation of the government-owned company, St. Martin Harbour Holding, because of losses reported by this entity. This resulted in a lower equity of the harbour than what included in the books of government at the time, the end of 2015. In addition, the cost of personnel has exceeded the budget by 9 million guilders. The depreciation costs were budgeted too low for an amount of 6 million guilders. On the other hand, the cost for subsidies were budgeted lower by 5 million guilders. Impairment and depreciation costs are non-cash items in the profit and loss statement of government, and impairment costs are very hard to predict and to budget. The main issue in the actual figures as we compare them to the budget are therefore in the personnel costs. The overrun is due to a payment agreement with APS concerning a correction on the pension premiums for and of previous years. If these extraordinary expenses had not occurred, the actual figures would have shown a positive result compared to the budgeted result and thus a strong improvement compared to 2014. As it pertains to the accuracy of the income and expense accounts, we are confident of the accuracy of the information, and so our profit and loss statement, also referred to as the P&L, pose no threats or challenges. As pointed out by the Council of Advice, we continue to experience vulnerabilities, or we call them threats, in the following areas: the material fixed active, the financial fixed active, the receivables and debts, study loans, social costs, and the subsidies. The final slide shows the backlog and our planning as it relates to the annual financial statements. 2013, 2014, these have already been approved by Parliament to be published. 2015, now in Parliament. 2016, the drafts to be sent to the Council of Advice. 2017 and 2018, the drafts are at SLB for review, and 2019 starts now to be submitted on September 1st, 2020. In closing, I hereby request the approval from Parliament of the 2015 financial statements. While it is late and perhaps far from perfect, it is a representation of the works and finances of government as per the reported period. It represents the hurdles for us to finalize these long overdue legislative trajectories to be able to create our path going forward.
Member of Parliament in the opposition, Mrs. Sarah Westcott-Williams, wants Parliament to be provided with the latest annual reports of government-owned companies. She also asked which are the latest years that the government has in its possession and whether these can be shared with Parliament.
To provide Parliament with the latest annual reports of the government-owned companies. If Parliament can receive those, reference is made to them in this annual account as well. But which are the latest years that the government has in its possession, and if these can be shared with Parliament. As a red thread throughout these annual accounts is mentioned of the 2015 instruction by the Kingdom government. In fact, there is a whole discussion in the documentation regarding this annual account as to the nature of the budget 2015 and whether that was ever an approved budget. That's a discussion that has been taking place between the internal accountant of government, the General Audit Chamber, and the government itself. Leaving that for what it is, what is the status of the 2015 instruction as given to government, considering that there have been attempts to amend this instruction for it to be applicable still? So what is the status of the 2015 instruction to government? As a red thread throughout this annual account of government is the issue of the comptability ordinance. One of the matters that keep coming back is the issue of the procurement policy / legislation. Where is this draft legislation at the time? So the changes to the comptability ordinance to deal with, amongst other things, public procurement policies, where is that at this time? The SOAB, in its report, or the General Audit Chamber, highlights that for 2015, the government has made a valiant attempt to give the achievement of policy results. However, in the opinion of those advising the government on this annual account, this evaluation of policy execution by the government is not very clear. And I concur on both points. I concur with the fact that government has made an attempt to give some policy results, so some achievements by government, but it is not very clear. For example, in the columns in which the policy has been ticked off, does that mean that these matters have been accomplished by the different ministries? So, for those who are not in possession of the report of which I speak, in other words, the annual account 2015, every ministry has presented its achievements. And these achievements, based on policies, have been ticked off under the year 2015. For clarification's sake, does that mean that these items as ticked off have been achieved?
And in more news for you at this time, the Central Bank of Curaçao and St. Martin, CBCS, is concerned about the trickling pace of promised aid from the St. Martin Recovery, Reconstruction and Resilience Trust Fund and the potentially irreparable damage to the country's competitiveness as a result. While all other sources of help contributed decisively to the resilience and recovery of the economy of St. Martin, the aid from the trust fund has been limited from the beginning. In fact, only $34.8 million out of the pledged $550 million has been disbursed over a period of 2.5 years since Hurricane Irma passed over St. Martin, stated CBCS Interim President Dr. Jose Jardim, while also noting that the amount actually spent is even less. The economic recovery of St. Martin could have been faster and geared more towards better resiliency from future natural disasters, Dr. Jardim emphasized. The CBCS's willingness to support the government and the trust fund in accelerating the pace of recovery. Hurricane Irma devastated St. Martin in September 2017. The hurricane severely damaged the country's vital economic infrastructure, such as its airport and major hotels. The damage caused a sharp and painful drop in economic activity along with higher unemployment. It is incomprehensible that more than 2 years have passed since the hurricane, yet less than 7% of the promised aid has been disbursed, Dr. Jardim commented. Economically, St. Martin has been left to its own lot, the interim president lamented. Dr. Jardim cautioned that merely allocating funds to the country's economic recovery is not enough. Instead, effective use of the funds is necessary to continue the recovery. The people of St. Martin can see for themselves how funds have been promised to alleviate their economic and emotional suffering have been taken hostage by the bureaucracy and conditions surrounding the trust fund. This transformed a show of solidarity within the kingdom into a major disappointment. Nevertheless, according to the interim president, the CBSC remarked that St. Martin once again proved its resilience by starting an economic recovery in 2019. The economy grew last year about 5.5%. The economy of St. Martin is expected to continue its recovery in 2020, however, at a slower pace. Although this is an impressive recovery, the economy of St. Martin has not yet fully recovered to pre-hurricane status. And still to come, Prime Minister Jacobs on the vessel that was refused entry to our shores. We'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
GEBE has been faithfully serving the communities of St. Martin, powering your home and our economy. Come rain or shine, our qualified team of professionals are working hard 24 hours a day to provide you and your family with safe, reliable electricity and water. We use the latest technologies and test our products daily to maintain the highest international standards. Our friendly staff is always there to assist you, whether in person, over the phone, or online. We are committed to constantly improving our products and services, making them more efficient, effective, and environmentally friendly to serve you better today and our next generation of clients tomorrow. GEBE, powering a brighter future.
Our friend Megawati is here with tips to save you energy. 1. Turn your airco temperature up. 2. Use a ceiling fan instead. 3. Buy energy-saving products. Save some green with NVGEBE.
And in other news at this time, reports reaching local media outlets indicated that Prime Minister Sylvania Jacobs made a decision not to allow the disembarkation of passengers from a cruise ship, the Vida Diva, on Thursday, March the 5th, 2020, at the St. Martin Harbor. Her decision was based on the failure of the local agent for the cruise ship to provide a health declaration from the vessel before its arrival and within a specified time frame. It is a standard procedure for agents of cruise ships to send the relevant health declaration for ships that they are handling at least 48 hours before the specific ship arrives in port. They have a second and third option to delivering the health declaration 24 hours or 12 hours before reaching their destination. The stipulated time allows the cruise ships to assess the health condition of the passengers on board before entering any port, so they can alert the local health authorities in the unlikely event of an emergency. In the case of MS Ida Diva, there were no reported cases of health risks. However, the cruise ship was penalized based on the agent's apparent failure to provide the documents to the Collective Prevention Services, CPS, within the stipulated deadline. Under normal circumstances, the CPS, through the Ministry of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, VSA, would have given the all-clear for the vessel to berth and the disembarkation of the 2,629 passengers and crew would have been allowed. Reports indicate that since the vessel was also in need of fueling, St. Martin was its next scheduled fueling port. Ms. Ida Diva was allowed to refuel before leaving for its next destination. Unconfirmed reports are that the Port St. Martin, in its discussions with the agency for MS Ida Diva to assess the situation and determine corrective action to avoid future reoccurrence. Meanwhile, many local tour operators have expressed concern over the significant loss of business and the negative impact of the decision to refuse the disembarkation of MS Ida's passengers. Some speculations are that the loss to the island is more than $750,000. The Prime Minister also addressed the 40th edition of the St. Martin Hennington Regatta, which is taking place as we speak. When asked if she was privy to meet with the organizing committee where it pertains to the coronavirus, the minister said that they have received an overview from the committee as to what their protocols and procedures are.
What I can say is that the regatta organization has been from the onset in cooperation with CPS and the Health Department, as well as the Ministry of TIAT. We have received an overview from them. We've had discussions as to what is minimally required for the event to be able to take place in terms of health, sanitation and hygiene, awareness, etc. And we've received an overview from them as to what their protocols and procedures have been already in preparation of. They are also pertaining to justice. They have to have their lists and manifests of their registered participants in all the races, which have to go through the Ministry of Justice procedures according to law in terms of having health declarations on board, just like with every other sailing vessel. So those things will be checked and double-checked by the Ministry of Justice through the Immigration Department. CPS has, and the Red Cross will assist, if necessary, with authenticating whatever medical declarations have been issued. Of course, we are only concerned about persons who have traveled to the clustered area within the past few weeks. And in fact, the minister has issued a decree which requires them to identify and declare where they have traveled up to the past 6 months. So we are actually being quite strict with that. This has been part of our law for some time, but the enforcement of it has been, ramped up a notch. As it pertains to, they are also participating in promoting, ensuring that there is sufficient hand sanitizing capabilities or facilities at the location. It is an enclosed location at the Port de Plaisance, and we are in close cooperation and collaboration with them to ensure that all of this will be done. As a result of our meeting over the weekend with the EOC, CPS has agreed to also do a training with all the volunteers and workers of the regatta to ensure that all are utilizing proper health procedures where it relates to food, service, etc. So everything in terms of being in contact with many people. Of course, I would like to state to the people of St. Martin is that across the world, it is being asked to minimize your contact with large groups of people. So for the local population, I would say those that have a fear, the best thing is to stay away from large groups that are, congregating. And that could be, and the most vulnerable group, we do know even across the world that the most vulnerable persons are children. Even though there have been no cases, we know that children are more susceptible and vulnerable, as well as the elderly. In cases where persons have died, it has been mainly persons above the age of 70 plus. So we really would like that persons be cautious in and of themselves, carry out their own proper sanitation and hygiene procedures, and avoid large gatherings as much as possible. But also to remember that there are no cases on the Dutch side, none probable nor confirmed, as well as that casual contact is zero to almost no possibility of getting the virus. The couple that was on St. Martin did pass through St. Martin, but the persons that came in direct contact with them were also suited up, and when they, let's say, took off some of their gear because the couple was didn't have any symptoms, they were also, for their own protection, if they felt that they would be exposed, they have also been asked to remain in self-isolation for a duration of time to ensure that they don't develop symptoms. But so far, nobody who has been in contact has shown symptoms, and the couple was here since the 21st. So Friday will actually be 2 weeks since anyone has been exposed, and they would have shown symptoms by now.
Now turning to our weather forecast. A relatively dry and stable atmosphere with Saharan dust will continue to restrict shower activity across the local region. Meanwhile, the loose pressure gradient will maintain light to moderate winds. Slight to moderate seas will remain throughout the forecasted period. However, by Sunday, northerly swells are expected to cause conditions to deteriorate. As a result, small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise caution, especially along the northern and eastern shores. Now, let's turn to your 3-day forecast. And still to come, Anna Richardson sworn in as National Alliance Member of Parliament. We'll have the details of that story and more when SXM Daily News returns.
Make use of WIB mobile banking with easy access and direct usage of face recognition, PIN code, or fingerprint. Download WIB mobile banking app and make your transaction from anywhere at any time. For more information, visit wib-bank.net/quick-login.
And as we continue with the news at this time, Anna Richardson was sworn in as a National Alliance Member of Parliament on Wednesday last, March the 4th, 2020. Ms. Richardson attended her first meeting since being sworn in on Wednesday. She is expected to have a short stint as an MP, or a Member of Parliament, as she is also candidate minister currently undergoing screening for the new government. If all goes well, she is expected to take up her post as Minister of Justice in the new government. And 3 men were arrested in connection with a string of robberies. The local detectives, together with other special units of St. Martin Police Force, arrested 3 men who are accused of having just committed a string of serious robberies on both sides of the island. The 3 suspects were the initials AJPS, 20 years, FMCR, 28 years, and JNIR, 26 years, were all arrested on different times during and at different locations of the island in the morning hours of Wednesday, March the 4th, 2020. The special unit robbery did house searches by the suspects' residences, and during these searches, several items were confiscated. These suspects are also accused of committing robberies dating back to the beginning of December 2019. The St. Martin Police Force is requesting that persons who may have any information or more information connected with these suspects and connection to these robberies to contact the Special Robbery Unit. And still to come, Prime Minister Jacobs on International Women's Day. You'll have the details to that story and more when SXM Daily News returns. Prime Minister Ms. Sylvia Jacobs spoke about the upcoming International Women's Day, which will be celebrated on March the 8th. The Prime Minister said that it is a global day celebrating social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. The Prime Minister said that there were many plans in place before the coronavirus took a sudden emergency turn, but she wanted to thank the women who are currently making contributions to the development of St. Martin.
International Women's Day is on March 8th. Of course, before the virus took a sudden emergency turn, there were many more plans in place which I have had to divulge my attention or divert my attention from. However, I would like to take this time to wish all women, as this is the last press briefing before Women's Day, all women on St. Martin and within the sound of my voice, a happy International Women's Day week and month. I would like to dedicate this month to highlighting the women of St. Martin, women, iconic women who have in the past made a great contribution to our development, who are currently making contributions to our development, and our youth, some of it who are already making contribution or who have potential to be great contributors to the development of St. Martin. I know for sure every single person has a female in their life that they can thank and they can promote, so I am encouraging that we do that during the month of March. It is International Women's Day on March 8th, a global day celebrating social, economic, cultural, and political achievements of women. So it's called the Day of Action for Accelerating Women's Equality. International Women's Day has been aimed to help nations across the globe eliminate discrimination against women, allow for equal opportunities in the work field, and this day focuses on helping us gain that full and equal participation in our local as well as global development. Once again, happy International Women's Day to all women.
And I'm Valerie Van Putten. Just a reminder that this and other programming are available online. Simply log on to stmartinmediacenter.com for viewing. Thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you back here again on Monday. But until then, do enjoy your weekend.